You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
That stadium is going to be rocking, and heaven help whoever walks in there to play us.
Sustained effort and violence, you play your ass off.
You're watching the Pirate Preview on The Sports Objective. Join us every Tuesday night on YouTube Live as we're joined by beat writers and other media members as we take a look at what lies ahead for the Pirates. Now, here are the guys.
It is a first down. Pirates.
What is going on, Pirate Nation or Green Wave fans who may be tuned in? You're watching and listening to The Sports Objective. We're bringing you the Pirate Preview here on a Wednesday night. 21st and 24th ranked Tulane travels to Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium, 3:30 kickoff on Saturday afternoon on ESPNU. And, of course, to preview that matchup, we welcome back our great friend and the play-by-play voice of the Tulane Green Wave, Corey Gloor. Corey, we appreciate your time.
Hello again, boys. Hello again, Sports Objective. And hello again, Pirate Nation.
Yeah,
Corey,
absolutely.
great to see you, man. Always appreciate your time. You've been very generous to this show. We certainly appreciate it. And we were we were kind of joking around before we started here about, for East Carolina fans, the 5 stages of grief. And I was in the rage stage for several weeks. Now I think I'm into depression and acceptance. So congrats to you, buddy, on 7-1.
Well, I can only do so much here. I've done absolutely nothing to warrant 7-1, so I just speak about it on a regular basis. But no, I'm glad to be here as per usual with this show. I've been on this show far too many times. Like, find some new people to talk to. Like, I'm just like, your fans are sick of me by this point. And who knows? Maybe I'll shed some light here on I think ECU fans think this is going to go one way this Saturday, and I think there are ways where that might not be possible. Tulane has a lot to prove here starting Saturday, and so that they are not a perfect team. They do have some flaws, and they might line up with what ECU does pretty well. So let's talk.
Yeah, appreciate Mark Calloway tuned in via YouTube, says hello, Corey and guys. And then also earlier on Just Another Sports Podcast, Justin Butts said looking forward to some Corey Gloor tonight. So you still have a lot of friends here in Eastern North Carolina, and
some late night Corey Gloor here too. Yeah. It's almost 10 o'clock where you guys are. Like, I'm getting tired, and it's not even 9 o'clock here, and I'm an old man now. So I mean, let's get weird too. Should I go grab a drink? Like,
okay, man. Whatever makes you happy. Grab a drink, make yourself comfortable. And here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Kyle from the Greens Harbor.
Of course, grabbing a drink, I'm going to grab my bowl of Frosted Flakes.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds better. Actually,
indeed it does, Corey. Indeed it does. There you go, Bubba, with my recorded laugh. Corey, I apologize that we started late. I do a show on Wednesday night with the head football coach at Northeast Academy here in North Carolina with Stevie Fly, and we had some technical difficulties nonstop from beginning to end, so it was a complete nightmare. But
that's all good. I believe I asked to move the show to tonight anyway, so thanks for fitting me and adjusting your schedule anyway. And Kyle doing 2 shows in one night, like I can barely do that, and it's my job. So I bully to you for being able to do this on a late night here.
Well, the first show ended up being about 40 minutes of technical stuff trying to get something fixed and about 20 minutes of show. So it was a nightmare. But anyway, it is what it is.
So, Corey, as we begin to take a look at this matchup, Craig Doucette chimes in on Facebook. He says, East Carolina's obviously 1-7. He said, what is Tulane going to prove? You're too nice, Corey. But in all seriousness, as you take a look at Tulane, despite the 7-1 record, got out to what 3 and 4 touchdown leads, perhaps over the last couple weekends against North Texas and New Orleans, and then at Rice, had to hold on for dear life in each of those. Very much like for longtime Pirate fans, kind of like back in 2001. But with that being the case, and there is a lot to prove. Not only are you playing for a second straight conference title, you're playing for another New Year's Six bid, and you need to play with more consistency.
That's the word, and that's what has folks here. Nervous isn't the right word. I mean, there's a little bit of nervy moments with Tulane football this year, and some unease from fans about how some of these games have looked and how they've gone, even though they've all but one resulted in a victory. But what Tulane has done is that they have dominated the first half on most of their opponents here this year. I mean, their first quarter differential is 72-17. Like they bolt out on teams, and then they've held a 21-point lead on North Texas at the half, a 20-point lead on Rice at the half last week. And then third quarters, they just look like they are in a different world at times. And now last three games, when you add in the road win at Memphis, in which they trailed at the half and had to come back and win, but they've been outscored 42-14 in third quarters over the last couple of weeks. And so they have had to, like, they coughed up a 21-point lead with 4 minutes left in the third and had to win at the end against North Texas. And then they had to have an 8-minute drive to kill the clock to win by 2 at Rice last week after giving up nearly all their 20-point lead. And so there's a real concern about why this team has seemed to look so flat coming out of halftime right now. And I think you could almost put it in the category of nitpicking because of where the team is right now. But when you know what's on the line, when you experienced what is achievable just a year ago, if you can put it all together, you find the holes to poke through. And this is a one that's widening right now. Like, it's becoming a consistent part right now of how Tulane plays a game. And so all the media here in New Orleans, national media that has focused in now on this team since the rankings came out last night, that's the question, is why does this team look so flat out of halftime? And so the message is not subtle to this group right now, starting with this Saturday. They are changing some things up about how they will operate warm-ups coming out of the halftime locker room. It's gonna have more organization to it. More coaches are going to get involved as opposed to just the strength staff that was doing it. And they're going to try and essentially emulate the pregame warm-ups as much as they can for the short amount of time they have in halftime, just to see if that can lock kids back in here. And it's not as though it's been just big leads that they've let get away, but this happened in Memphis too, and they were down 4 at the half in that one, immediately gave up a touchdown right out of the halftime break. And so just finding some way to get things resorted here in the third quarter. The Tulane's kind of played with fire in this category the last couple of weeks, and if they don't put it out, it will burn them, whether it's this weekend or, next weekend with Tulsa, FAU, UTSA. That's the schedule remaining. They can't keep treading on this type of thin ice much longer, because even though they're veteran, even though they're pretty intelligent, even though offensively they know they can move the ball on pretty much anybody, and defensively they can make a team one-dimensional, they can't keep rolling the dice like this if they want to be in the Peach Bowl this year, or they want to play for a conference championship, because it'll come back and bite them.
Well, we might be able to help y'all look better in the second half, as we have been a terrible second half football team all year. Not that we're that great in the first half, but we are much better in the first half than we are in the second half. We tend to fall apart in the fourth quarter in close ball games. We could probably help your second half woes. We're not a good third quarter team or fourth quarter team. So I do wonder, when you're beating teams and you're winning as much as you are, or as much as Tulane has been the last 2 years, I think sometimes it's easy to, I don't want to say take it for granted, but put it on cruise control when you have a big lead. I would caution, and Willie Fritz and the coaching staff knows what they're doing much more than I do. Sometimes don't make a thing a thing. I think coaches, fans tend to do that. They make a thing, and then it becomes a bigger thing than it would have been if you'd have just left it the hell alone. I can think of 2001. Bubba alluded to it earlier. We had a similar situation where we would be up big and then have to hold on in the second half, and everybody made it a thing. And then we blew the biggest bowl lead in bowl history at the time, where we led, I believe, it was 38-7 at halftime against Marshall, and ended up losing the GMAC Bowl because we made a thing a thing. It became a talking point and a focal point. So sometimes, if you're winning, you're winning. And I would caution that. Coach Fritz knows what he's doing way better than I do. But sometimes I think you can talk about something so much that it gets in a player's heads, and something that just happened to be happening now you've turned into an issue.
And it hasn't been really a major public talking point until the Rice game and what happened there. But the flip side of it, Kyle, is that, I would say what this team has still been able to win these games. And what they've done is they have just sucked the air out of the ball in the fourth quarter and had these long, sustained, just backbreaking drives to end games. They did that with North Texas in a tie game, 6.5-minute drive to win it. And then with Rice, they held the ball for 8 minutes in the fourth quarter to kill the clock and hang on for the win. The third quarter sloppy start happened when they were trailing at Memphis too. And so it's not necessarily just having a big lead and then checking out. There was something to it here that it hasn't quite felt right, whether they're trailing or whether they're leading. And so that's why it's becoming a little bit more of a thing here. And you're right. I don't think they're going out there. They're going to change, anything strategically. What I noticed with Rice was that the first drive that the Owls had, it took 7.5 minutes, but they scored. And Tulane spent a lot less time trying to tackle and a lot more time trying to punch the ball out of someone's hands to try and force a turnover. And then a bad interception later set Rice up. Rice wasn't stopping Tulane in that game. Tulane only punted once. And so it was one mistake and just a couple moments of this defense just trying to do something instead of just a sure thing. We're just making sure everyone's on the same page here, big lead or deficit, trying not to do something different in the third quarter, because that's what's happened here. And so yeah, it's becoming more of a thing now. I think, especially in light of yesterday, with them having the top group of 5 slot in the playoff poll, where now people are looking at, all right, this has been a problem, and now you're in the catbird seat. How do you fix it? Because if you don't, there's Air Force that's going to come right up and grab you, and there's someone in this league that's going to take your spot. And so that it's becoming a little bit more of a pressing issue outside of here, because now there's a lot more on the line.
I didn't get a chance to watch that Rice game, and I don't know, Bubba, you said you didn't. I don't know if you did, Matt. And I looked at the box score and the statistics, and you look at the yardage and all that, and so you try to figure out how in the world Tulane only won by 2. So you go look at the turnovers, and no, that's not the answer. Looking at the box score, I cannot figure out how you guys only won that game by 2 points.
Well, I can fill it in for you here. I mentioned the interception that came after Rice scored to make it 27-14. And this was Tulane's first drive of the second half. Pratt threw an interception, and Gabriel Taylor returned it 73 yards to the 3. And so Rice was set up first and goal, and they scored off of that. That makes it a 6-point game. And then Tulane kicks a field goal to make it 9, but then Rice gets a broken coverage to find McCaffrey and makes it a 2-point game. Tulane did a great job on JT Daniels. It's his second worst game of the year behind the opener against Texas. They were able to really kind of annoy him and keep him in the pocket. But Tulane punctured Rice territory on 9 of their 10 drives. They had the interception. They missed a field goal. And then they also had the end of the game in which they actually had to turn it back over to Rice with a couple seconds left. And so that went as a missed scoring drive. And so there were little things that just kind of crept in, little mistakes that they made. And Rice, for, that offense is pretty dang good. And so they gave them enough cracks there to work their way back in. And they did, but Tulane was able to, as they've done most often than not this year, just do what they needed to do at the end of a game to close out a victory.
Corey, serious question for you. Were there more than 500 people in that stadium down in Rice?
So
Seriously now. I know, tickets sold, but I mean actual butts in the seats. Were there 500 people?
Yes. Now I say that not saying that from where I was, I couldn't see behind the Rice bench. I know that we had a pretty good contingent there, actually. Houston's a pretty big alumni base for us, and it's not that far of a hike from New Orleans for there. And so we had almost the whole far section now it wasn't full, but it was olive and blue behind the Tulane bench. And then you had some folks in one of the end zones where it was shady. It was a warmer day. But no, that it was a couple thousand, but it definitely wasn't in the 5 digits, which is a shame. I mean, because I think that's a pretty good team that Rice has. I think they'll be a bowl team this year. And you like to see people starting to catch on a little bit there, that there might be something worthwhile like last year when they went to a bowl. But it was a library in there.
Yeah, it would benefit them to really kind of take a page out of Tulane's book and build a smaller stadium. I think.
Yeah, they need to rip up the upper deck. Like, it doesn't need an upper deck. It's a great vantage point, just selfishly from my view. The booth is horrible, but I mean, it's a great angle. You can see everything. It's a beautiful backdrop. But no, I mean, it is. Like, even if they get the 20,000 that they announce, 20,000 is about what we get on a regular basis, and we have a 30,000 seat venue, so it feels a heck of a lot better. If they get 20,000, it's still 60% empty. And so, I would love to, now that they're doing a lot of investment in it, now that they're in this league, now they have a pretty good team. I hope that there's some real honest plans in place to just shave off the top of that stadium and do some full-scale renovations on that thing, because it could be a really, really nice, really compact and loud venue if they restructure it. But they need to restructure it.
Yeah,
very quickly, Corey. I saw, I guess perhaps it was either on your X account or Tulane Sports Properties, but I want to say it was at that booth that you referenced, being so old and poor there at Rice, talking about the one of the tables that said, what was that, circa 1950?
Yeah, someone asked if that desk that my producer was sitting at, the engineer behind the upper part of the booth, was there when they built the stadium in the 50s. I'm pretty sure it was. And so I said, I believe that's where JFK made his final speech revisions.
Wow. That's well, it sounds like Rice definitely used some upgrades. And
I'm going to a much nicer booth this weekend.
Oh, it's too nice, as a matter of fact. We've had those discussions before.
If the window doesn't open all the way, it's still not as nice as it could be, but it is a nice setup.
Yeah, it's too nice. But way too much money on that. But I'm not going to get into that right now. So Corey, I've been all week for no particular reason, and I don't know why. There is nothing statistically that makes me think this. And I'm not a positive, rainbow and lollipops guy. I've been ranting and raving and screaming and hollering and wanting people fired and throwing things and cussing people. But for some reason, maybe it's just wishful thinking. Maybe it's just, I just the mood I'm in this week. But I just got a feeling about this game Saturday. I mean, I don't want to ruin the Green Wave season and cost East Carolina as well as the conference a bunch of money, but I just got a feeling about this weekend. I don't want to alarm you because I know my feeling really means something, but I don't know. I keep getting this weird feeling about this game, Corey. I don't know. I don't know what I expect you to say to that. Perhaps maybe it's just indigestion.
I mean, it could be both, which is fine. But no, here's what I'll say. I said off the top, there are ways for ECU to win this game, and I'm not BSing there. What ECU is really good at, Tulane is really good at on the other end, and that's the running game. And so ECU is very good at stopping the running game. Tulane will come in now with, statistically, it's fifth in the conference in rushing, but Mekhi Hughes is now the best, the top back in the conference in terms of actually running the ball. He became the starter halfway through the year, and now he's got nearly 800 yards to lead the league. He's a horse. He's been unbelievable for this team. Tulane will try and get him to be the main weapon offensively. That's just as great as Michael Pratt is, and he's incredible, and he's going to be a pro guy in some capacity here. Tulane runs the ball 60% of the time, and that is one of the highest rates in the nation. So Tulane will take their strength and put it up against ECU's strength. Will ECU's strength break? Tulane is hoping that it will, because if it does, then Michael Pratt becomes incredibly dangerous with the play action pass. When he's in play action, he's surgical. And the only way play action can really get going is if the running game starts things off. If ECU closes up the running game, the play action's not going to be there right away. So that's the way for ECU to win this game. If they can keep Mekhi Hughes under 100 yards, which he's on 4 straight over 100 right now, and he's coming off of 153 last week, then ECU can win this game. Like it would be a low-scoring game. That's what the Pirates want. Tulane's fine with playing that sort of game, but they'd rather score 30, 35 on you. And the way for them to do that is if the running game gets things going right away. But ECU has not allowed that to happen most often than not this year. And so there's the Newton's law. Those two are going to collide here on Saturday, and whoever wins that battle is going to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think you make some great points there, Corey. And, you know, I was trying to put myself in the shoes of Blake Harrell, East Carolina's defensive coordinator this week. And when you look at Tulane, I think what really gives me concerns about them is the balance that they present. That they're a very, you mentioned 60% run, but very balanced team. And, you know, you mentioned the play action with Pratt, and I think that's my biggest concern this week for the East Carolina defense is that, you know, we like you said, we tend to play very well against the run, but we are susceptible against play action and in the secondary. And I think that is going to be, you know, when you look at that at the end of the day, how we do against play action, I think could be the decisive factor in this game. Because like you said, that is Pratt's strength, coming off the ground game, setting up play action. And then Willie Fritz knows how to get people in space. And it's, like you said, it's surgical. So I think that's the big challenge here for East Carolina's defense.
And the Tulane running game, Matt, it's right now, it's really 3-pronged with how Tulane runs the ball. The biggest of which is Hughes. And he's been a bit of a surprise this year, becoming the lead back. The second of which is Pratt himself. He's probably the second most consistent runner on the team, and they will design running plays for him. They maybe won't design as much this week because of ECU's strength up front, but they might. They will work in some of that a little bit. I mean, he picked up 2 4th downs last week against Rice, running on design QB draws out of shotgun, which we had not seen yet this year. And both of them were conversions, including the game ender. So he will run the football. And the other element that's worked its way in over the last couple of weeks is that we will do the jet sweep handoff a good number of times. And that's where Lawrence Keys, Jaquan Jackson, Yokeith Brown, these three in space and their ability to turn the corner, that's become a major element to the running game here. And so, you know, for ECU, Hughes is the primary focus, but Tulane will try other ways of running the ball. And if they can get something cracking through there, then you've got the 3rd most efficient passer in the country in Michael Pratt right now. And he's got some big play targets. That big plays have been a little bit trickier to find in the last couple of weeks, but that's because they've been putting a lot more emphasis on running the football here. But if they can get a little bit of momentum there, then they're going to send Chris Brazel down the seam, and he's a 6'5" guy, and he's going to jump and win a lot of one-on-one battles. And they're going to find Alex Bauman, the tight end, who's becoming now a big play receiver over the middle right now the last couple of weeks. And so, there are so many ways this offense can beat you. It starts on the ground. It's always been Willie Fritz's mantra. He wants to run. He wants a split, but he will lean running the ball. And he will try and run in a myriad of ways here on Saturday so that when that starts working, then the aerial game can start really flying.
And for Pirate fans who may not be as familiar with what Michael Pratt has done this year from a statistical standpoint, throwing it roughly 23, 24 times a game, 102 out of 143, did miss a couple of games due to injury early on, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, completing more than 71%, just shy of 1,400 yards. But talk about some of these targets that he has. The top 3 targets have combined for right at 75 catches, well over, 1,300 yards and averaging about 17.5 yards per reception.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 3 guys here in the wide receiving core that are all top 10 in the conference in yards per catch. And that's Chris Brazzell, Jaquan Jackson, Lawrence Keys. And it's kind of ebbed and flowed who the favorite target has been week to week here for Michael. Last week it was Brazzell. The week before it was Keys. Jaquan Jackson got hurt, suffered a concussion in the Rice game, but it looks like he'll be fine for this game coming up. But those 3 have been kind of the primary consistent ones from start to finish. Keith Brown has emerged in the last couple of weeks. He's got a couple of touchdowns on these fly sweeps. Caught his first touchdown in a Wave uniform last week. He transferred in from Texas A&M. And so it's given this team really 4 dangerous receiving threats that Pratt has now put a lot of trust into each and every one of them. Jackson's a slot guy, great yards after catch. Brazzell is the one-on-one guy. And then Keys and Brown in space are really dangerous. And so it's created a lot of options for Pratt. And then Alex Bauman, I just mentioned him. He's caught 3 touchdowns the last 2 weeks after Tulane hadn't really used the tight ends a ton in the receiving game. But now that Mekhi Hughes has really emerged as a terrific running back, that's allowed the tight ends to leave the line and stop blocking and opening up running lanes and allowing them to get downfield. And so Bauman has now benefited from that. Now, we saw last week, Tulane actually throw to their running backs once or twice, which had not really been the case so far. And so now that might start getting worked in here now that Michael trusts these guys to hang on to the football and little check down plays or little screen passes, whatever the case might be. And so there are a wider range of targets right now here for Michael Pratt. It started with just 3 wide receivers, and now you've got really 6, 7 guys that he trusts to throw to right now.
Like Matt said, very intrigued to see how this aspect of the game pans out because last weekend at UTSA, UTSA had a lot of success throwing the football, specifically in the first half. Josh Cephas had 4 receptions for, I think, 180 or 185 yards and having 3 targets like you do, averaging 17-plus yards per catch. That's something that Blake Harrell and that defense will have to do much better at this week. So kind of shifting over to the defensive side, the number that really jumped out at me, in addition to just holding opponents to a stellar just 20.5 points a game, just 79 yards per game on the ground.
They've only let 1 team rush for over 100 yards this year. That was UAB. And I don't think ECU has seen them or will see them, but they did a lot of shifty things with pre-snap motion, and Tulane was just kind of caught off guard by how they ran on them. And so that's the only team that's cracked 100 on them rushing the ball. And they've seen some good backs over the year in non-conference. South Alabama, Ole Miss, even Southern Miss, for all their struggles, they have good stables of running backs, all 3 of them, and none of them could get going. And so it starts up front. That front 4 has been a real brick wall, just closing up the run. And they've made, Rice wasn't going to run the ball. That's not what they're looking to do. They want Daniels to slide up in the pocket and go downfield. But even then, they held Daniels to 189 yards, and that's with that running game not really being a factor. But that's what that defense can do when when they're on, they're making a team one-dimensional, and they've done that every game this year with the exception of one. And so it puts more pressure on a quarterback to be a little bit more perfect when they know that as the game has gone, there's really not an option to carry the football. And so what the Tulane defensive line has done, and it's almost all been kind of them. Like Tulane will blitz, they'll send a couple extras here, but Patrick Jenkins at D tackle, he has been unbelievable this year. Eric Hicks at nose has kind of gone overlooked, but you don't stop the run without a stout nose tackle, and that's what he's been able to do. And then the edge rush here that Tulane has, it's been a little bit quieter the last couple of weeks. Devin Deal, Darius Hodges, Keith Cooper, they've all kind of haven't been as productive as we have seen. Tulane only has 1 sack each of the last 2 games, whereas that number was ratcheting up to begin the year. And so we'll see if they can kind of hit a second gear again now that we're in the back third of the year. But that front group, there were 9 guys in that defensive line that had all started before this year at some point. It's very deep. They rotate constantly. Like they will always be substituting on that defensive line because they trust how far they can go down that depth-wise. And it's been dynamic. Like, I mean, it has been exceptional what they've done to running games this year. It has made every team put the ball in the air. And even a team like Rice, where that's their forte, it didn't work. It didn't wind up getting a victory, even though they came close. So what that group has done has made teams panic a lot this year. And all they've done is just fit their run gaps.
Yeah, and I think, from East Carolina's perspective offensively facing that, and I think we saw this a little bit last week where the philosophy changed a little bit in terms of we, throughout the course of the season, were trying to set up the pass with the run. And last week, for the first time, you saw a little bit of the opposite where we were more of a pass-first offense trying to blend in the running game. And I think for East Carolina to have any chance this weekend, because I do think I anticipate we're going to need a minimum of 28 points to win this game. We're going to have to put the ball in the air and be very aggressive and take shots when they present themselves. Because, if East Carolina tries to go conservative and just pound the rock up the middle, I just don't see that as a good recipe for success, especially against the stout defensive line you just mentioned, Corey.
And Tulane has had their breakdowns against passing games this year. They give up 254 through the air, and that's near the bottom of the league. And so, you can test the secondary a little bit. The 2 cornerbacks are very good here. Lance Robinson has 4 interceptions. Jarius Monroe is probably the best cover corner of the bunch, but he doesn't get thrown to a lot, and he's usually on the field side, or I'm sorry, he's usually on the boundary side. My apologies. But those 2 corners have done a good job. It's been kind of over the middle of the secondary that can spring a leak or two. Last week, DJ Douglas, the free safety, had a very, very good game, had a pick on Daniels right at the end of the first half. But there will be some moments where what Tulane ran into trouble against North Texas was that the Tulane linebackers had to start playing in pass coverage, because North Texas just stopped caring about running the ball and just sent everyone downfield. And the linebackers are not quick. They will lose the coverage battle more often than not. And that's how North Texas got back into that game. And so there are ways to get down the field on this team through the air, if the quarterback has the time. And that's been the thing with Tulane defensively, is making sure that they're closing the pocket ASAP, to really cause some mistakes to happen. Last year's defense was a zone defense and keep everything in front. This year's defense is those big plays better not start. That's where Tulane is right now. And they have not given up a play longer than 50 yards this year. And so it's worked, even though the passing numbers don't look great, but you see 20 points a game, you see 7-1, you see that it has worked itself into an advantageous spot here. So, Tulane's probably not going to change a wild amount here defensively. They want to close the pocket on Alex Flynn, assuming he's going to be the main guy, and I think that's the safe assumption right now. But even if it's Garcia, they're going to want to make sure that that pocket barely exists for him or them. And if they take off, and they both have the capability of taking off, then there's your linebackers or there's a safety to snuff it out before it can really get downfield. Tulane had some early troubles against mobile quarterbacks. That has changed a little bit. Seth Hennigan couldn't really do much against them. Chandler Rogers didn't run a ton from North Texas. They were able to bottle that up. So they feel a little bit better about mobile quarterbacks. And that might get tested this Saturday with the legs that these two have. But when push comes to shove, if Flynn has time, if Tulane's pass rush can't get there, then there's enough good wide receivers on this ECU team that Tulane will have to be in a lot better coverage than we saw at points against Rice and North Texas the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, with good wide receivers, we even had two of them catch touchdown passes.
I know that's been a thing, but I look at Jalen Johnson, I look at Josiah Hatfield. These two are legitimately good wide receivers. Willie Fritz has mentioned them this week here about how much he likes them, how much he likes the running game, even though that hasn't really gotten going as much as ECU would like here. Like he sees good here, and I think even though that might sound cynical, he sees a lot of problem matchups here in this game, and so he knows that there's a talent here, especially offensively, and there's playmakers here, and if Tulane doesn't treat it seriously, they'll get burned.
So, something to keep in mind and take into consideration as far as the ground game is concerned. Javius Bond is practicing this week, so you could see the very talented freshman back in the lineup on Saturday, and hopefully seeing some significant snaps because he does have that playmaking ability. And then Gerald Green, who played for Coach Fritz's former school, Georgia Southern, and had 3 or maybe even 4 very good seasons with the Eagles. He is, kind of emerging and had a 45-yard run last week when the game was still in doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I think Javius Bond is on the mind here. If he does return, we obviously won't know until Saturday with how things go with this. But Bond is a shifty playmaker, and like what I count him at is he's got 5 carries of at least 20 yards, and East Carolina doesn't have a lot of those types of plays under their belt here offensively, and so he is a big time difference maker in that backfield. And if he's back and healthy, then that's a weapon that Tulane's rush defense is going to have to combat with here. We'll see. I know Tulane feels very confident about stopping running games regardless of who the opponent is. It's whether or not they can stay locked in the back 7 throughout the course of the game, tackle cleanly, especially out of halftime, and don't bust in coverage that happened against Rice last week. And that's how they feel the direction of victory will have to go here. They feel ultra confident about stopping running games, regardless of how good or bad they might be. It's whether or not they can keep passing games down and whether or not they think they can move the ball with how varied this offense can be.
Guys, as we go to complete silence with all 4 of us here.
Well, I thought I saw you unmuted yourself. I was letting you chime in.
I didn't even realize I was unmuted, to be honest with you, Bubba. But nonetheless, I'll chime in. We'll talk about Willie Fritz. Willie obviously has had a lot of success at Tulane, undefeated last year, 7-1 so far this year. Tulane in the top 25 of every poll, including the playoff rankings. Saw today Arkansas. I don't know if they fired their coach or talking about firing their coach or what, but saw Willie Fritz's name mentioned. Obviously, last year his name was tied to the Georgia Tech job. You got to figure at the end of this year his name's going to come up for a lot more jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're expecting that here. The other element to this is that right now Tulane is without an athletic director. Ours went a few weeks ago and took the job at Washington, and so now that is primary focus number one, to get an AD in place here, hopefully shortly, and then if and when these talks start happening about other schools maybe being interested in Willie Fritz, then some discussions can be had. So yeah, it's definitely front of mind of people here. I would imagine that in the search for a new AD, Willie Fritz has been asked his opinions on it, because right now that's the guy that you need to keep happy here. That you need to, like,
Right.
listening to him is now it's dangerous, obviously, because you don't want to get the input of someone and then maybe they aren't here in a couple months, and Michigan State throws a ton of money or Northwestern throws a ton of money and he's gone. But with where Tulane Athletics sits right now, and with a rare bit of harmony between Tulane Athletics and Tulane University, which has been always hard to find here, they're on the same page now, that you can have a high academic university and good athletics at the same time. Keeping the guy that helped raise the profile nationally and internationally of the school itself, and also has shown what can be done with the support in their program, keeping him happy and even having him have some input here, or at least get his opinion on the matter. That's got to be high in the list here of the selection committee for a new AD. And who knows if it's the person that Coach Fritz wants, then all this talk is just conjecture about maybe he leaves after this, and that's it. It just gets nipped in the bud. But we'll see. So that is kind of the on the back burner, but it's percolating. Like you can see the steam rising. You can hear it boiling a little bit. That we're into November now, and this team is in a position to do great things again. And now you are in a position in which the athletic director position is available, and it's an appealing job right now. There's no question. It's far more appealing right now than it was even 4 years ago. And so, the hire that gets made here is going to be one of the most important ones in Tulane athletics history, because if it's the right one, then you can keep a football coach happy, and you can keep him around. You can really build this thing when the playoff expands to 12 next year, and you are in that mix. And when more realignment stuff comes calling, and you're actually in that mix, as opposed to just kind of on the periphery right now. So there's a lot to sort out here, and a lot of it's going to hinge on who the new athletic director is going to be. I know pretty strongly that Willie Fritz has certain people in mind he'd like, and we'll see if one of those is the person here, and that could be a domino effect, or it could just kind of calm the waters. We'll see.
Right.
Corey, shifting back to Saturday's game, taking a look at the special teams for the Green Wave, appear to be very solid, at least in the kicking aspect. I have not had a chance to take a look at the return game, but I noticed you've used two punters, Will Carroll and Casey Glover, who are averaging 45-1 and 41-2 respectively, and then Valentino Ambrosio 12 out of 15 with a long field goal of 45, and he's 5 of 7 from beyond 40 yards. And Casey Glover's done a nice job with the kickoffs.
Well, Ambrosio was 3 for 3 from beyond 40 at Rice. I mean, so that number ratcheted up quick, and he actually missed from 29. And so it was a strange day for him, but he'll enter this week as conference special teams player of the week because of his 3 40-plus yarders that he hit in Houston. I mean, he had not missed inside of 40 since he got here last year, and he misses one, but then drills 3 outside of 40. Will Carroll's an Aussie, and it's the first Aussie that Fritz has had here in the punting game. And let me make sure I get this number right here. I don't know everything off the top of my head. I have to cheat. Sorry. But he's got 6 punts inside the 20 of the 16 that he's kicked. 4 of those have been inside the 10, and 2 have been down at the 1 yard line. And so, like, what he's done, he was injured to start the year, and that's why it was Glover punting again. That was an all-conference punter last year, Casey Glover. But then Carroll came in, and he's just been dropping dimes on people. He was only asked to punt once last week, and he got a good one off of 48. And then Glover in kickoffs, he's put about half of them through for touchbacks here. Not a lot of guys get kick returns off of Tulane. Not a lot of big punt returns either off of Tulane. It comes down to this. So really, all three phases are about as solid as you can find. It goes back to where we kind of initially started. It's where are the potential cracks evolving here for Tulane, and that's what you want to see sewn up. That's why there is so much emphasis on the start of a second half. That's why there is so much emphasis on defense tackling with more leverage and not losing leverage in the second half, as opposed to just trying to go for a turnover. It goes to Michael Pratt making the correct read and not throwing an ill-advised interception that lets a team back in, like what happened last week. And so, but I mean, what this team can do moving the ball offensively, how this team has played defensively, and the special teams phase in which you can rely on a punter to play a field position game, and you have a field goal kicker that you trust from beyond 40 yards right now. There's not a lot of weakness on this team. The ones that you can find, you really want to clean up here because of what's on the line here, but there aren't a ton of weaknesses available to see right now.
Yeah, and to me, the first thing that comes to my mind when I see a team that starts fast every week, plays extremely well in the first quarter and the first half in general, excellent game plan, and Willie Fritz has a track record of being able to put together an excellent game plan and be able to start fast. And, I'm guessing that's one of the reasons why they have so much success early, because, he's just such a good coach. He's able to come up with a great plan. And, maybe teams are adjusting a little bit at halftime to what he's doing, or maybe it's just more of a focus thing. But, I'm sure that's something that East Carolina will be familiar with and try to, take advantage of. Guys, let me ask you this. I mean, and Corey, you're probably don't have an answer for this, but Bubba and Kyle, how many fans are we anticipating for the game this weekend? And do you think that, that'll be a factor? Or not?
I can't help you here, so I have no idea.
It's been very up and down, Corey. It's been very up and down.
I mean, I would say there will probably be a little bit of a buzz with.
I'm sorry, Matt. I was just talking away and wondering why Corey was talking over me. I had myself muted.
So you did hear the question.
I did, yes. I was answering it as hard as I could and was wondering why in the world you guys just kept on talking. Sorry, Corey, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I thought you were interrupting me. Matt, this is educated guess, knowing our fan base. It's going to be good weather, but we're a 1-7 football team. Traditionally, unless we're playing for conference championships, even in decent years, a bowl team, but we're not competing for a conference championship like last year, for example. Attendance typically goes down in November for whatever reason. I think it's a combination of reasons. With 1-7 football team playing a top 25 football team, a lot of people aren't going to think we're having much chance to win. You will have your fans that will just come out to see Tulane play because they are highly ranked. You have your diehard Pirates. If you put a gun to my head, I would say between 25 and 30,000. And do I think it'll be a factor? I think if we give the fans something to cheer about, 25 to 30,000 Pirates can still make a lot of noise. If the team gives them something to cheer about, it could be a factor. But no, I'm not expecting any record-setting crowds, but I wouldn't expect to see it go below 25,000.
Yeah, I think if we could put 30,000 in the seats for this game with the type of record we have, I think that would be a major win.
I think it's entirely possible that we could do that. Bubba, are you making the drive up from the greater Charlotte area?
I would be, but Reese has her first basketball game. I'm the coach, so that is at noon. So I'll be I'll be forced to watch on ESPNU.
Well, I'll just have to storm the field for you.
Yep.
Bubba, out of respect for the great Bobby Knight, who sadly passed earlier today, I would like for you to throw a chair or two.
Throw a chair across the court at a elementary girls game. That would win over a lot of fans.
Yeah, I mean, but it's out of respect. It's out of respect.
Well, Bubba, if you wanted to get out of it, if we were having a really good football season,
exactly,
we were having a Tulane season. That's how you got out of it. You just throw the chair, and then Corey, before the podcast tonight, somebody was telling me something, and they mentioned you and that you sounded like someone, and I never heard it until now, and now I cannot unhear it. Of who you sound like. Maybe you've heard this. You've been in radio for years, so you probably heard it at some point. You care to take a guess of who this animated character is that you sound like?
Who this animated character is that I sound like?
Yes.
Brian Griffin.
No, Squidward.
Oh, see, I can't help you much there because I'm not a SpongeBob person. I really have not seen.
Let me hear you angrily say SpongeBob.
You need me to say SpongeBob with anger.
You're like, SpongeBob?
SpongeBob?
Do you guys hear it? Are you guys familiar with SpongeBob at all? Do you hear it in his voice?
Not really, but enough. I'm like Corey, not really a SpongeBob person, but at the same time, I've seen it enough to see the resemblance.
Yeah, Corey.
Wait, do I look like Squidward too?
No, you
sorry,
do not
no resemblance, but yeah,
no resemblance. No resemblance of Squidward, but
the voice
definitely a similarity in the voice.
Voice similarity. Sorry.
Yes.
Well, make sure you play when I die. Play that clip of me screaming SpongeBob at my funeral.
If we're around for your funeral, that's going to be some morbid crap if you die suddenly.
I mean, not if you're playing me saying SpongeBob in that way, then people will love it.
Well, we'll get it done. Well, you guys keep that in mind. If Corey dies unexpectedly, he wants that clip of him saying SpongeBob at his funeral.
Corey, I have a question for
you. Justin Butts says, OMG, yes.
Okay.
He'd say, Justin Butts here, is it?
Corey, question for you. You coming back to Greenville, obviously a lot of history here. Is there any particular food establishment or maybe a local bar in town that you're kind of looking forward to getting back to and, spending some time at?
I believe we're staying across from a Biscuitville, and that's very appealing to me because I know that just opened in Greenville, and your boy likes Biscuitville.
Wasn't there a Mediterranean place you liked when you were here?
Yeah, it was Yaba Mediterranean. Is that still around on Charles there?
I'm a big Benini guy, however you say that.
Yeah, it's the same people. Yeah, same family that owns both of them. Yaba
I know Benini or however you say it is still there, so I'm assuming the other places too.
Yeah, and
my wife is correcting me on how we say this. How do you say it?
I think it's Bettini.
Yeah, you said it right. You're saying it how she said it. Yeah.
That if you haven't been there yet, like that's like a hidden gem to me in Greenville. Like I educated some friends of mine when I was there like last summer on Yaba. And so sorry for the free ads, by the way, Bubba and Dave and Kyle. I don't know if any of these are sponsors, but
no,
they are now. Corey Gloor gives a stamp of approval to Yaba Mediterranean.
So they own Benini also, or however you say it. I know I'm saying it wrong.
Same family that owns those two. And then
I've eaten
Yaba, like Raleigh, I think too.
Okay, I've eaten at the other one several times, and it is very good Greek Mediterranean food.
Get the wrap at Yaba, like it's like set up kind of like a Chipotle where you order at the counter and you put stuff.
Okay, so that's the difference in the two restaurants. One's
it's a fast
Greek,
casual,
and then the other one's like a
fast casual. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right,
it's so good. Now I don't know if I'm going to have the ability to go sneak out over there because there is probably a table of tiebreakers calling my name Friday night. So we'll see. But no, it's I don't.
Are you getting together with Clip at tiebreakers, Corey?
Clip Brock?
Well, Clip's always a tiebreaker, so that's what I figured Yeah.
It's whoever rolls up, rolls up. That's all I'll say. But I get the sense I will be there Friday night.
He said Clip Brock, like Clip Brock?
Because I also thought I couldn't tell if he said Clip or Cliff, and I was like, I don't think Cliff Godwin is coming out.
Oh yeah, he's going to be there. He's having a welcome party he's kidnapping you. Actually, he wants you back to call baseball. And Cliff.
No, I don't think after what happened this past May, he wants me back.
Okay, all right.
After Tulane beat ECU in the conference championship game. That's all I'm saying.
I got you. Okay.
So, yeah, if that answered your question, Matt, there's a tiebreakers on my agenda here. There's definitely that. With a cold beverage, maybe a couple, since it's a 3:30 game. I'm on the air at 2:30. I got a little bit of time, so the night get a little wild.
Very nice, man. Very nice. Well, hey, it looks like it's going to be great weather. It's going to be 70 degrees around kickoff. It's going to be a sunny day, and definitely looking forward to it.
30 degrees tonight, 71 on Saturday. Eastern North Carolina weather.
Same thing here. We're going to be in the 40s tonight. It was 85 on Sunday.
Yeah.
Corey, before we let you run, very quickly, to tell us what you've seen so far. I know the Green Wave have had a couple of exhibition games on the hardwood. Tell us about Ron Hunter's ball club.
They're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to try and score upwards of 80, 83 points and be at the top of the league in that category again. This is the highest pick they've ever had in the American at third, which is where they finished last year. There's a really good core that returns. Jalen Forbes, Kevin Cross, Sion James, those are the big three that are back. They lost their point guard, Jalen Cook. He transferred out. But they bring in a kid from St. John's called Kobe King, who they were really, really high on. It's not a whole lot changed about Ron Hunter's team. They will play that weird nebulous zone defense where sometimes it's going to be a man-to-man, then it morphs out of it and turns into it's a hard defense to figure out. Teams will be able to shoot a lot of threes on them, probably get a lot of offensive rebounds, but Tulane will outgun you more often than not. And so there are some expectations are higher about this program than they have been since probably the mid to late 90s. And what I like about what's happened here heading into the year is that they were picked third, which is great. Again, it's the highest they've been picked in this conference's history. But they feel they should be picked higher, so they're going in with some chips on their shoulder here. I know Jalen Forbes is confused that he was a unanimous all first team selection, but he wasn't named preseason player of the year. He had two guys from FAU win player of the year in the preseason. And so that this team is getting accolades, which they should, about what they could do this year after winning 20 last year. But there's still enough doubt about whether or not they belong that they're entering this year with a little bit of vigor, I think. Which is good because they've stumbled in November the last couple of years, and that's cost them postseasons. Like, they won 20 games last year. They should have been in the postseason, but they had some bad losses in non-conference. They can't afford those this year. The non-conference isn't that strong, so they have to be near perfect. And with what they did over the summer when they played in China in the World University Games and some high-intensity games there as a team, they feel as though they're a lot better prepared to hit the ground running starting Monday night. Now they got to do it because the conference schedule, the conference is deeper than it was last year. With Memphis, with FAU coming in, with UAB, with North Texas, with where East Carolina, I think a lot of people think they will be this year with what they've done, the transfer portal. And Mark Adams is a huge get for that coaching staff. And so this league is going to go 7-8 deep. And Tulane is going to be one of those ones at the top. They just got to go out and prove it now.
Yeah, Pirates picked fifth, Tulane picked third. As much as I hate this league in football, the new league, I love it in basketball. I think it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of parity. Obviously, up top, you have Florida Atlantic and Memphis, but it is deep. You're right. I mean, you guys are going to be good. We're going to be good. North Texas, UAB. Then you got teams that are traditionally good, like Temple and Wichita State and Tulsa. So Charlotte won the CBI or the CIT, one of the two last year. So Charlotte's going to be pretty good.
Yeah,
so,
and I think South Florida with what they brought in this year, that's a team to watch out for. Yeah. With Emil Abdul-Rahim coming over to be the coach there from Kennesaw State, and so I think it's going to be a league when we hit January. You're going to look up and you're going to see a lot of teams just punching the crap out of each other. And so I think it's a shame that Tulane and ECU play once instead of twice this coming year, and it's in Greenville, I believe. But Tulane gets Memphis twice, they get FAU twice, they get North Texas twice, UAB twice, and so you're gonna look up, and it's gonna be a pretty bloody league, I feel, because you can really go down the ladder. You mentioned Temple and Wichita State. They might be in the bottom 4 of the league, and that should speak to just what the league is right now, how good I think it can be when those traditional basketball schools are going to struggle this year. And from what I see, from what I kind of feel here, so it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and Tulane has been knocking on the door here of really making some noise. Now I just got to kick it down because I got a very savvy veteran core that needs to push it over the hump.
Before we let you go, Corey, I know Maction is, of course, in full effect, and what a scene it was up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, with your NIU Huskies nearly pulling off the comeback, down 24-3 at the half, and there were times in the first half it was literally a blizzard. It was crazy. I mean, the field went from partially covered to where you couldn't see the yard lines in a matter of about 5 or 10 minutes.
The glories of blizzard football and Halloween. That's what Maction provides every single year. And tip of the cap, by the way, to Bill Baker, voice of the NIU Huskies, wrapping up year 44 in his final one at the end of this football season. One of the voices I listened to growing up, and certainly when I was in college there, and that's one of the icons in my world. And so congrats to him on just an incredible career. And hopefully, I think the doorway's almost closed, but it's not fully shut yet about working your way back to Detroit there, Huskies, but do it for Bill Baker so he can win another MAC title before he leaves.
Corey, tell Pirate fans, as well as obviously the Green Wave fans, where they can follow you on social media.
Right there. At Corey Gloor on both of those. Yeah. If you haven't found me by now, I don't know why Pirate fans would want to find me at this point, but yeah, nothing's changed about that right there, at Corey Gloor. Love to hear from you this weekend.
Appreciate the time as always, and we'll catch up soon with hoops on the horizon.
All right, Sports Objective. It is always a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Corey.
That is former East Carolina play-by-play voice on the baseball side, Corey Gloor. Appreciate his time as always. And I think, guys, we dove into that matchup pretty well between the Pirates and the Green Wave. Pirates 17-point underdogs on Saturday afternoon, 3:30 kickoff on ESPNU. And honestly, this is one, it would not surprise me to see the Pirates keep it within that 17. At the same time, it wouldn't shock me if we went out and got beat 41-10.
No, as much as I say I have a feeling about this game, it also wouldn't shock me if I'm leaving at halftime. Though, by the way, Tulane's played in the second half. Maybe I should stay. I'm with you. I could see us, shocking the world, or I could see us losing 48-10. Like you said, nothing to me is out of the question in this ball game.
Yeah, and for me, I'd really like to see ECU embrace the role of like playing spoiler. Like you said, Kyle, like the shock the world mentality. Embrace it. I mean, at this point, you have nothing to lose. Literally nothing to lose. There are no expectations for this game. You're a 17-point dog at home. Embrace that role. Enjoy it. And there's no reason to play uptight either. I mean, you should just let it all hang out on Saturday and take your best shot. Hopefully, guys, we see more of the up-tempo style of offense like we saw last week.
You would think, I'm sure we'll try to establish a run, but you got to be pass first, particularly against that defense.
Before we get out of here, you want to take a quick look at some of the other big matchups of the weekend. I know, Matt, you'll have Sonny and Semenza coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Bubba. Some good matchups, and absolutely looking forward to that. I think we have 5. Bubba, maybe you can I'm drawing a blank on the biggest one right now.
Some of those matchups that Jay Sunhalter and Matt will be taking a look at on tomorrow's edition of Sonny and Semenza. Obviously, you have LSU squaring off with Alabama. I believe that one is in Tuscaloosa. You have Kansas State traveling to Austin, the 23rd ranked Wildcats, taking on number 7 Texas. You have Bedlam. Bedlam taking place for who knows. It'll be the last time until who knows when, I should say. Number 9 Oklahoma coming off that loss in Lawrence to Kansas, playing a bit of an under the radar Oklahoma State team that's ranked 22nd and 6-2. They really had some quarterback issues and offensive struggles early in the season, and don't look now, but them and Iowa State have kind of snuck up on some folks, those folks being Oklahoma, Texas, and K-State in that Big 12 race. So not only is it the last Bedlam you'll see for perhaps quite some time, but also a key game in the Big 12 race. And that one is in Stillwater. And Oklahoma, despite what happened last week, not surprisingly, is a 5.5-point favorite. And before we move on to talk about some other matchups, a number that's pretty mind-boggling in this series is how much Oklahoma has dominated it. I remember back, it's probably 7, 8, 9 years ago now, but I was surprised when I saw exactly how wide the margin was in favor of the Sooners. I thought they had probably won 65 or 70% of the games, but this will be the 118th meeting. In the first 117, the Sooners are 91, 19, and 7 against the Cowboys.
Wow, that is hard to believe, man. That's a great stat. Always a fun game to watch, though. And Bubba, you mentioned, do you know the line in the K-State Texas game? Because I think
I do.
That's a dangerous spot for the Longhorns.
The Longhorns are a 4-point favorite.
4-point favorite, yeah, sounds about right. I mean, that Kansas State team is very dangerous. That is a good team. That's going to be a fun game to watch. I could definitely see an upset there.
I mentioned that Bama LSU game. That is in Tuscaloosa, and Bama, as you would probably guess, a slim 3-point favorite. Number 8 against number 14, and LSU is that 2-loss team that some folks believe if they run the table and win the SEC, which would include a victory over Georgia in the SEC championship game, that they have a chance to maybe, if the stars align, to sneak their way into the 14 playoff. You have Missouri. What a year so far for Eli Drinkwitz and the 12th ranked Tigers. 7-1. They're traveling down between the hedges to take on 2nd ranked Georgia, the Bulldogs. 8-0 in a big 15.5-point favorite in this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Missouri's real or not. I mean, they're definitely playing good football, but Georgia has a way of humbling people. So tough matchup for Mizzou.
And then you also have USC, who once again got by the skin of their teeth against Cal last week in a game that was delayed due to a protest. And that's a whole nother topic that.
What were they protesting?
I do not know, but that's amazing that was allowed to happen.
Was that at Cal in Berkeley?
Yes, I mean get them off the field and let's play football. If you want to protest in the stands or outside the stadium,
I'm curious to know what they were protesting. That's a very, very, very liberal school.
I could probably tell you it has something to do with Hamas, Palestine, Israel. Yeah, there are a bunch of wackos out there in
on
Berkeley.
the side of Hamas. You mean?
I'm certain of it because that is definitely the way of the liberals to be almost borderline anti-Israel and support Palestinian / Hamas. So, but that's a whole nother story, guys. But yeah, Berkeley is just absolutely pathetic institution when it comes to politics. But I had to get that in there. Sorry.
But after that close call against the Cal Bears on the 20th ranked Trojans, 7-2, still very much in the thick of the Pac-12 race. At least at this point, I don't think they'll end up there, but they're taking on 5th ranked Washington, who the Huskies are 8-0. They've had their struggles defensively as well. The over-under in this one, 76.5.
Yeah, I want to go back to that Missouri-Georgia game just for a second before we get out of here. They blew out Florida, in the world's largest cocktail party, and it's a rivalry game. Even though Missouri's ranked number, I bet you Georgia's going to have the attitude that they just won't take Missouri. I wouldn't. I think Georgia's going to win it, but I like the points in that game. I think Mizzou is going to give Georgia a scare because I don't think Georgia's going to take them serious despite the record and the ranking.
Interesting.
Another team. A point of note: Nebraska, year one of Matt Rule, they traveled to 2-6 Michigan State.
Blowout.
Cornhuskers 5-3, so they should become bowl eligible this week, and they really need to do so. 3 challenging games after this. Can certainly beat Maryland at home, but then they go to Wisconsin, and then they have Iowa coming to Lincoln. So
they can. I wouldn't be surprised if they won out, with the exception maybe being Wisconsin.
Yeah, they definitely could win any of those, but this is their best chance to get that 6th win, get to 6-3, and then like you say, who knows? They could potentially run the table or win 9 or 10 games.
Yeah, or even if they just lose to Wisconsin, an 8-4 season would be spectacular for them. Matt Rule doing it quietly, kind of the Matt Rule way. Doesn't get talked about and does nothing but win games. And by the way Nebraska's been here recently, really since they had some decent seasons with the guy that's
Frank Solich.
No, they had some good seasons after Solich. So the guy that was at Young,
Bo Pelini.
Yeah, Pelini. Yeah, I don't even know if Pelini's still at Youngstown, but besides the couple of good seasons under Pelini, they have been good forever. They've a couple of head coaches since Pelini. So hopefully, not hopefully, I don't know why I have a dog in the fight, but I think Matt Rule's turning things around in Lincoln.
No doubt. After that 0-2 start where you had the near miss loss on the final play of the game at Minnesota, and then a game that was closer than the score indicated, a 36-14 loss at Colorado, they have won 5 out of 6.
Wow,
and
very impressive.
Finally found a way to win those close games. And I say close games. To be honest with you, only one of those has been within 10 points. So, but have found a way to win nonetheless. And yeah, I really thought that was a good hire for Nebraska.
Yep.
with Matt Rule, despite what the Carolina Panthers fans wanted to say. Just because he failed miserably with the Panthers doesn't mean that he was going to fail going back to college where he'd had so much success at Temple and Baylor.
Excellent college coach.
Any other games this weekend that you guys really have an eye on? One that I certainly have an eye on, the Battle of the Gamecocks, Jacksonville State taking on South Carolina. The South Carolina Gamecocks, as you would guess, is 16.5-point favorite. That is a noon kickoff on ESPNU. So that will lead you into East Carolina Tulane.
Rich Rodriguez doing a hell of a job at Jacksonville State. I don't know that they got the horses to upset an SEC school, but you will watch that game and see that they are very well coached. It is evident watching them play.
South Carolina has had its struggles defensively. The Gamecocks, listen, throughout the season, gave up 31 to North Carolina. Obviously, no shame in that because the Tar Heels are very good offensively. 21 to Furman. Then you allowed 30 to Mississippi State, which has had its struggles offensively. 41 to Tennessee, 41 to Florida, 34 to Mizzou, and then 30 to Texas A&M. Very intrigued to see Jacksonville State's attack against South Carolina.
No, good point. And, Rich Rod is a hell of a coach, and they're well coached, period. I just don't, I know they have defensive woes at South Carolina. I just don't know that Jacksonville State has, like I said, the horses to beat them. I do think they can give them a ball game, though, because they are so well coached.
Yeah, I think I would probably take the 16.5, but I'm like you. I think the Gamecocks will probably find – the South Carolina Gamecocks, that is, will find a way to prevail.
Yeah.
But, what a job by Rich Rod. Year one, and they're 7-2. Meanwhile, South Carolina has to run the table to become bowl eligible once again under Shane Beamer. After this, they have Vandy at home, which is certainly very winnable. And then they're all four of these final games at home: Jacksonville State, Vandy, Kentucky, and Clemson. It can be done. And
definitely be done.
It's looking more manageable all the time.
Kentucky is the toughest one remaining.
Yep.
And to clarify what you said about year one for Jacksonville State, year one at the FBS level in Conference USA, year two for Rich Rodriguez.
Yes, year one at the FBS level in CUSA.
Yep.
Scrolling down the schedule here, a game that's certainly not getting talked about the way it would have been otherwise due to Clemson losing an abundance of close games. The Tigers just 4-4. Notre Dame going to Death Valley. Notre Dame 15th and 7-2. You have Air Force looking to remain unbeaten. The 25th ranked Falcons, who are just one spot behind Tulane in the first college football playoff poll, as the Green Wave are 24th. You have them playing one of the games as part of the Commander-in-Chief's Trophy as the Army Black Knights travel to Colorado Springs.
Love to see Air Force doing well, man. I've always been kind of a sneaky Air Force fan. When I was a kid, I loved the helmets and the uniforms, and great to see those guys doing well. How about an undercover story? I don't know if you guys heard. I was reading on the news tonight that Colorado's locker room was robbed.
Yeah.
At halftime of their game against UCLA in the Rose Bowl last weekend, and Dion was pretty outspoken in terms of saying he thought that the NCAA should find a way to reimburse the coaches and the players. Apparently, a lot of jewelry was taken, wallets.
Why should the NCAA have to reimburse them?
Well, that's what I thought was kind of bizarre about it. If anybody, it would be the Rose Bowl or USC, who should be able to think about it from this perspective. That's their home stadium. They're responsible for security. Those locker rooms should be guarded. Yeah. So I would hold USC responsible for that.
UCLA was robbed as well.
I'm sorry, UCLA. I said USC.
But I say they were robbed as well. Coach Prime and Dion thought that they were robbed as well from what he had heard.
Yeah, it's just a bizarre. You would think there's cameras all over those tunnels too, right? Leading into the locker room.
Oh, you would think there would be cameras. Well, I was about to say you would think there'd be cameras in the locker room, but I guess maybe not. But you would think there'd be cameras in the tunnels.
Yeah.
That wasn't a full, complete thought there before it almost came out. Then I completed the thought and said, "Wait a minute." But yeah, there should be in the tunnel. Sure, right.
a game that's expected to be lopsided is Florida State, Pittsburgh, and rightfully so. But that game is at Pittsburgh, and it's interesting to see what the weather is going to be with Florida State. And they're playing in very unusually cold temperatures like that, probably around 30 degrees, I would imagine.
Alexa, what's the high going to be in Pittsburgh Saturday?
Friday.
Oh, it's Friday.
But it's probably not going to be much different. Excuse me. You're right. It's Saturday. What's the temperature?
50. It's going to be in the 50s.
Okay. So.
Oh, okay. Not too bad.
I figured it's going to be in the 70s here, so I figured 50s in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and it's a 3:30 game, fortunately for Florida State, as opposed to a night game.
Yeah, no doubt.
So that's one, depending on what the weather was, then I certainly think the Noles will win the game rather comfortably, but may look at taking Pitt and the points because they did beat Louisville at home.
I do love to see Southern teams come up and play up north when the weather gets very cold. It's always interesting to me. Hopefully there's some very cold weather in that one because I'd like to see how Florida State handles it.
And the last game I'll make a note of is, or a couple actually, in the ACC, you have 13th ranked Louisville, whose lone loss is that game at Pitt. The Cards are hosting a surprise in Virginia Tech. The Hokies are still, very much in the thick of the ACC hunt.
Yeah, the Hokies playing good football here lately. Louisville's a really good team. I still don't know how they lost that Pitt game. I guess it was just not preparing yourself after pulling off the upset against Notre Dame. But I would expect Louisville will win this one. But you are correct. Virginia Tech has suddenly, over the last 4 weeks or so, started playing really good football.
And you have James Madison. The Dukes will put their unbeaten 8-0 record on the line when they travel to Atlanta to take on 6-2 Georgia State. Could Sean Elliott and the Panthers put an end to the Dukes' perfect season?
Well, he definitely could. Georgia State's a good football team. I know they're a little down. To stay in that Eastern Division race, they're going to have to, with Georgia Southern now having the advantage in the head-to-head. JMU not eligible to play for the Sun Belt Championship. So I would imagine JMU's goal is to go undefeated. As I guess everyone's goal is at one point in the season. But they have nothing to play for except to go undefeated. I don't even know how it would play. I thought they would be the first team selected if there wasn't enough bowl-eligible teams, but I don't think that's the case. Is there any way they can get to a bowl, Bubba?
James Madison, that is.
Yeah.
There is. If there aren't enough bowl-eligible teams, that's I knew
Well, they
that.
didn't go to a bowl last year. Rice got to go at 5-7.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's just earlier on one of their games recently. The commentators were talking about their situation.
Well, maybe they got a waiver. Maybe the NCAA has said that they would go over a 5, and they should have went over a 5-7 team last year. But
right.
By the way, what an antiquated, stupid rule that you move up and you have to wait 2 years before you're bowl eligible. It is a stupid ass rule from the 1950s to keep teams just from moving up and moving back down, depending on how good they were going to be that season. And it needs to be done away with. It's an idiotic rule.
Yeah, if you're good enough to move up and do what they've done, and it's a shame for them.
Well, how about this? How about since we want to make so somehow it's unfair? I'm not sure how it's unfair that they get to go to a bowl moving up, but how about this? To make it fair, why don't we just let JMU play Jacksonville State in the bowl game?
Could you imagine? I mean, just think about it from a financial standpoint with JMU. If they do run the table and then had the opportunity to play in the Sun Belt Championship game
and go to New Year's Six
and be 13-0 and be the representative in the New Year's Six.
Yeah,
I mean, them and the Sun Belt, they're missing out on what, an $18 to $20 million payday, and then think about all the ripple effects that come from that type of game.
No, it's a shame for them. I mean, it. I wonder. I wonder this. I've wondered it. Now I wonder it out loud. I wonder how much Mike Houston is thinking in the back of his head. I wish I'd stayed at James Madison because I know obviously they were FCS at the time, and East Carolina was a step up, but struggling here now, looking at them continuing to roll without him. That thought has had to enter his mind.
Oh, I'm sure it has. I've thought of that too, Kyle. And, you definitely have to. I think it's a really good point. You wonder about that. And, it makes you, gets you back to the point that here we are in year 5 and we're down this far.
Yeah.
And JMU is undefeated and very frustrating.
Well, James Madison was winning football games long before long before Mike Houston. And at a high level, they were an FCS power way before Houston got there, and have now moved up to the FBS and just continued that trend. I mean, Everett Withers. Look, the reason Mike Houston got the job not because Everett Withers got fired. He moved on to an FBS job. I mean, the previous head coach that was there for forever, Bubba, you could probably help me with his name. I remember watching those guys upset Virginia Tech in the pouring rain running the triple option in the early 2000s.
Mickey Matthews.
Mickey Matthews, you got it. Yep. So, JMU's been good for a long time in football.
And this final one that I'll bring up is your culture shock game of the week. And that involves BYU traveling to Morgantown to take on West Virginia.
Imagine since it's going to be a conference game, when Clemson or NC State goes to Berkeley.
Oh, it's disgusting.
I hope several Clemson fans make the trip with dip and chewing tobacco and make it a point to
spit on the field.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Yeah. Can you imagine? You don't think the Danny Ford type would mesh too well out there?
No, I do not.
But
yeah.
Do you think the West Virginia fans will be passing out free ice cream to the BYU fans just like the BYU fans would to them?
No, I don't. Though I will say this. On the football field, it's nice that the BYU fans are BYU, man. They always play dirty. There are some dirty playing mofo Samoans, and they might beat the crap out of the West Virginia fans, but the BYU fans won't. But yeah, I'd be careful throwing batteries at some of them big Samoan boys' heads the way the West Virginia fans like to. They might jump in the stands and eat them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rough matchup for BYU. I don't see that one ending very well for them.
I don't know.
What's the line in that one, Bubba? Do you know?
I don't know. West Virginia.
Mountaineers by 10.
By 10? Yeah, I can see them pulling away, winning that one by 21.
Really?
Yeah, I could.
I don't, man. I'm telling you, them.
They're both 5-3.
You watch it, man. I'm telling you, them West Virginia fans, as hostile as they are, you start pissing them big Samoan boys off. I'm telling you. I'm telling you right now. That crowd may backfire on them. I'm just telling you. Just remember I said that.
I definitely agree with you with those Samoans. I mean, they are tough people. Yep. Definitely not people to mess with. But, yeah, I just see it as a tough matchup. I think I definitely could see West Virginia pulling away a little bit there. We'll see.
And Kyle, to your point, what you brought up a moment ago, definitely remember the brawl between BYU and Memphis down in the Miami Bowl. That is.
Oh yeah, I do too.
That is no longer in existence.
Yeah, well, we own that. The American Conference actually owned that bowl, and that bowl is now it does still exist, Bubba, just not in that name. It became the Frisco Bowl.
Gotcha. All right.
So,
because of course that one was played at Marlins Park or Marlins Stadium, whatever it's called.
I like that bowl. I don't know why it didn't last. I actually really like that bowl.
Yeah.
Berkeley, Cal Berkeley is hosting a new bowl game too this year.
Are they really?
It's called the All Liberal Bowl.
Dave's going to listen to this podcast and have a heart attack.
Matt, you've done your last episode.
You're done.
It's been fun, my friend.
Yeah. In the words of Ray Stevens, you are out of the shrine. All right, guys. Are we done? Or we got anything else?
We're done. We'll
Good.
rejoin you, or at least Kyle and I will, on Sunday night for the Pirate Football Playback presented by L&K Custom Homes. Matt and Jay Sunhalter will be with you on Thursday, as they will have a recorded episode of Sonny and Semenza, and they'll have that for you, taking a look at some of those top games of the first weekend of November.
All right, and then in between time, I get a light ran up my butt Friday. So how about that?
Sounds exciting. No.
Yeah, not so much. Not so much.
Nah.
The prep will be like, we should do a show tomorrow night in the middle of my prep.
We're just ending this show on a lot of controversial topics here.
You think colonoscopy is a controversial topic? Hey, look, I encourage everybody, Matt, over the age of 40 years old, Bubba, Matt, go get a colonoscopy. There's nothing controversial about that. You need to go get one. It saves lives. It prevents colon cancer. And colon cancer can be 100% prevented with routine colonoscopies. The problem is younger and younger people are getting colon cancer all the time, and they're not recommending the age being screened any younger. They did lower it from 50 to 45. I think it needs to be 35 or 40 at this point. But I would encourage everybody to go get a colonoscopy.
No doubt. But appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll have Sonny and Semenza, as I said, on Thursday. Pirate Football Playback. Hopefully talking about the Pirates' first win of the season over an FBS opponent, and what a huge win that would be, as it would be against the 21st ranked Tulane Green Wave on Saturday afternoon. But for Kyle Barber, Matt Semenza, the absent Dave Richmond, I'm Bub Rosenbaum. You've been watching and listening to the Pirate Preview on the Sports Objective. We appreciate everyone tuning in, and as always, go Pirates.
I'm a pirate down to my soul, and I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode, from the sidelines down to the post. Put it down like not even close, all out to my last whistle blow. From the flag with the soul and crossbones. Everybody stand up, get your hands up, let the team know that we got they back. This is our house, this is our town, our time, breaker 19, copy that. Everybody gonna stand, go bananas, scream loud, baby, don't hold back. Every foot, every yard, every first down, every touchdown.